Roll call. Councillor Cody.
Here.
Councillor Crass is excused tonight. Councillor LaRochelle is excused tonight. Councillor Lunt.
Here.
Councillor Mason.
Here.
Councillor Pomelo.
Here.
And Councillor Bowie. Okay. First item, please, Twyla.
Is under public hearings, a vitriol's license for Chummy's Midtown Diner.
I will open that public hearing. Any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close that public hearing. Next item, please.
Vitriol's license for the Canton Pearl.
I will open that public hearing. Comments from the public? Seeing none, I will close that hearing. Next item, please.
We have a special entertainment permit for the Coombs Mountford Post, American Legion, Post 158.
I'll open that public hearing. Comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close that hearing. Next item, please, Twyla.
Order, under consent agenda, Order 2010-187, to approve a vitriol's license for Chummy's Midtown Diner, a vitriol's license for the Canton Pearl, and a special entertainment permit and liquor license for the Coombs Mountford Post.
I would entertain a motion.
Can we accept all three of these together?
Yes, that's the object
Yeah.
of the consent
I'll make a
agenda.
motion to accept all three.
I'd like to second that.
I have a motion from Councillor Cody and a second from Councillor Pomelo. All those in favor?
Order passed, 5-0.
Yep. Next item, please.
Under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, Order 2010-188, sewer foreclosures.
Good evening. I'm not going to say anything about the sewer foreclosures. I just wanted to introduce Katie Burnell. She's was hired on to take the place of Ora Madden, who recently retired, longtime sewer billing clerk. And she's been getting up to speed and really getting thrown into the fire with the lien process here. So she's going to come up and talk to you guys and be nice to her. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you. I have prepared a list for each of you showing sewer accounts with liens that are maturing on December 16th for 2010. These liens were filed at the Androscoggin Registry of Deeds on June 16th of 2009, and the lien process is actually an 18-month process beginning when the liens are filed with the registry. Previous to the filing of the liens, in April of 2009, approximately 300 courtesy letters were sent to the customers notifying them that their accounts were subject to the upcoming lien process, and on May 16th, 2009, the 30-day notices were sent, certified, and return receipt to the customers, notifying them that a lien would be placed against their property if the outstanding amounts weren't paid. And on June 16th, 148 liens were then filed. We don't do anything else from that time until October 13th, 2010. We sent courtesy letters reminding the customers of the upcoming foreclosure date for December. And then on November 4th, the notice of impending foreclosure letters were mailed to the customers and to the mortgage companies. I have received several payments since the foreclosure notices were sent out, and I am now down to 43 accounts. Several of those I'm in contact with either the customer directly in setting up payment arrangements or with the mortgage companies, and there are a few that I'm waiting for payments on to this date. I'm asking the council to allow me to continue to work with the companies and the customers, the mortgage companies and the customers, in efforts to get the balances paid after the foreclosure date, if possible, with the exclusion of 39 Village Street due to ongoing issues with this property.
Questions of council? You want us to exclude 39 Village Street, you said?
There have been some issues with this property.
That's the Tiverton
Past.
property.
Oh,
It's in court.
correct,
Yeah.
yep. Okay. Any other questions from council? This is fairly routine. We do this every year or so.
Times.
So what we're authorizing tonight is to continue with the collection process, but if need be, process the foreclosures on their appropriated due date. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Counselor Mason.
I'll second that.
I have a second from Counselor Pomelo. Any additional comments from council? Comments from the public? Oh, yes, ma'am.
The date regarding the collection process, that delay the foreclosure, you're gonna.
Could I ask you to come up to the podium, just so that everybody else can hear you?
The one question I had was regarding the authorization to continue with the collection process. Does that delay the foreclosure process? Does that also march on the same
No, I
timeframe?
think what's intended here is that we continue between now and the actual foreclosure date to work with the people to collect as much as we can and keep them from going to foreclosure and be able to release their liens. Otherwise, when it hits this date, if we haven't been able to work with them, it'll start the foreclosure process.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Order
Okay.
passed, 5-0.
Thank you, Katie. Welcome aboard. Okay, next item, please.
Under other business, introduction of the new Economic and Community Development Director.
I'd like to introduce our new Economic and Community Development Director, Scott Benson. He comes to us with quite a long history of working in economic development, City of Augusta. He's currently working as a consultant for Eaton Peabody Consulting Groups. He's very excited to be on board and can't wait to get at it. His first day will be December 6th, and we'll put his feet to the fire, for sure.
Well, welcome aboard. Thank you. Glad to have you.
Yeah, we're all glad to have you.
You have a comment, Mr. Fillmore?
Yes. First of all, I'd like to welcome Scott aboard here and hope that he does good things for the town here. However, I'd like to see the council give him a round of support here by having a third-party independent audit done of the Economic Development Department to eliminate all the rumors and allegations and everything else that's floating around the town on the Economic Development Department. I think he deserves that, and I think the council should give him the town's support in making sure that they work with him to make sure that he gets a fair shake on everything that's happened in the past. So he's well aware of it, and he has a fresh slate to start out with. And I think that's our responsibility to support him in his actions. And I think by doing a third-party audit, that'll get him started in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from council?
I-
Yeah, Roger?
I would question the outstanding 32.5 that I've heard lately that is now not closed. And that does tie into the Economic Development Office. I agree with Mr. Fillmore that it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Just to follow up on that, Roger, we have been in touch with the District Attorney Croto. We've had a very difficult time getting to set up a meeting with him between myself, Chief Brooks, and our attorney. He's on vacation next week, so we couldn't get to him next week. We have also made a request that we sit down with the Attorney General's office, which has been more open to sit down with us, to give us a reason why they chose not to prosecute and what their evidence was.
When would these meetings be taking place?
I don't have dates yet. That's what we're working
Will
on.
the council be invited to these if they would like to attend them?
I'd have to talk to our attorney about that, make sure that that's a doable thing.
I'd like to attend those meetings.
Okay. Anything else? Dot?
Dot Fitzgerald, resident of Lisbon Falls. I also feel that an audit should be done, a forensic audit, not just your normal audit, but a forensic audit, not just in that department, but for the entire town. And going back to that 32,500, charges were made against that individual. Serious charges that damaged his reputation, just about put him into bankruptcy, prevented him from getting jobs. He is entitled to have his name cleared. Either charges brought or have his name cleared. One or the other, but this gentleman is entitled to that. No comments?
I have no comment on, I mean, this has gone through the court's hands. It's really not a topic that's on our agenda tonight. I don't really want to talk about it anymore. We've had numerous discussions. If council would like to discuss this further, then I would recommend council asking for it to be put on a later agenda to be discussed. But we're not here to talk about that item tonight.
Well, I am asking that it go on the agenda, and I am asking, making a request, more than a request, that something be done to either charge this person or clear his name. His reputation and his name has been damaged by these allegations, and he is entitled to closure on this.
Can I just add something? He hasn't been charged with anything, Dot. Part of what his job is to clear money that went through that office during his job, and obviously that money couldn't be cleared, but nobody's charged him with anything. I mean, to go on legally, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find out why the charges were so-called dropped or nothing was pursued. So nobody's accusing him of anything.
But
Or
his name-
convicting him of anything, I guess is the proper word. And I don't know what more to tell you than that.
He may not have been formally charged, but his name was dragged through the mud in the newspapers, on television, and this gentleman is entitled to something, to something to either clear his name or charge him. And I am requesting that this town council and this town manager do this.
I'm not making any comment on this at this point in time.
You're just gonna put it in the trash can.
This is with the courts, and I just told everybody, if council wants to discuss this at a later date, it's not on our agenda tonight. It's not planned for our agenda tonight. Council can request that this be put on an agenda, and we can have a full-blown discussion that is within legal limits and rights for something that's still either pending or not pending
Well, it
at that
hasn't
point
been
in
on
time.
the agenda for a couple of years, and I don't expect to see it on the agenda. The new Economic Development Director, I really would like to hear from him, have him come up and give a little presentation of his background and where he's from, and I think the town of Lisbon is entitled to that. If he would agree, if you councilors would agree. Thank you.
Mr. Fillmore, what did you have?
I think I can help you solve this for this evening. This week, I went in and started investigating or looking around to find out because I personally am tired of hearing about this, okay? So I went to a very reliable source, okay, who gave me the following information. The town did an investigation. They turned it over to the district attorney. The district attorney took it to the grand jury. He was indicted by the grand jury. Okay? Before he went to trial, the district attorney turned it over to the state attorney general. The state attorney general reviewed it and sent it back to the district attorney for his action because it's in his jurisdiction. Now, because Mr. Eldridge said it was a closed case at the last meeting, was why I started looking into it. It's an open investigation. We can't talk about it or do nothing until such time as the legal aspects of it done. So bringing it up every meeting is not going to help us. What we need to do is ensure that there is enough follow-up from the town with the district attorney to get it resolved. I'm not taking sides either way, okay?
I'm not either. I just like to have his name cleared.
Well, I can't help you with clearing his name,
I know, but
but I'm just saying,
some resolution.
Okay,
I agree. And there, you can't go any further on this because it's still pending. That's what I was given this week. I hope
Okay.
that helped you.
Thank you, you did.
Roger,
what's that?
I think Roger had something.
Did you have a question?
Oh, I was just gonna put it for further review, but if, Mr. Fillmore has, brought to light that we're gonna wait till the, district attorney reviews it, then we'll wait till the district attorney reviews it, and I'll follow up with the district attorney's office.
Okay. No, enough on this topic, Dot. Enough on this topic. It's not even on the agenda. I've already entertained more discussion than I want to entertain on this. Okay. Next item.
Town Clerk's Department presentation. Thank you for inviting me tonight to give you an update on what's going on in the election and Town Clerk Department. I have about a 10-minute report. This has been another busy year with attending and transcribing council meeting minutes, issuing dog licenses, hunting and fishing licenses, marriage licenses, business licenses, recording and selling birth, death, and marriage certificates, updating our code book of ordinances with newly adopted legislation, and administering elections. Let's begin with the election of our annual officers on November 2009. 4,029 voters elected our annual officers and also approved the Lisbon Trail System bond referendum and the water bond referendum questions. Following a small inauguration ceremony for the newly elected officials, the council adopted changes to the council working rules document. The council approved holding a special town meeting and bond referendum election on April 6, 2010 for a $350,000 general obligation bond to renovate the Lisbon High School. 874 ballots were cast with voters approving that project. On May 25, 2010, the council approved the $13.9 million school budget with the voters' approval on June 8, 2010. That was held along with the state's primary election. At that election, voters also approved continuing the budget validation referendum process for an additional 3 years. The council passed revisions to the Board of Assessment Review Ordinance, adopted a new internal control policy, plus amendments to the subdivision ordinance and site plan ordinance. The council adopted a new policy for disposition of town-owned real estate as well. Lisbon continues to use AccuVote tabulating machines, although it is expected that the state will mandate a uniform statewide system soon. Residents can vote early by absentee ballot. A voter can call the town clerk's office anytime 90 days before an election to have their ballot mailed to them. The state of Maine's new electronic absentee ballot request system, designed for voters to order their absentee ballots online, went well this year. Lisbon received about 75 absentee requests this way, and those absentee ballots were mailed. A new link is available from the town clerk's webpage, or you may access it from the state's election webpage. Now that a voter no longer needs to provide a reason to vote absentee, it has become very popular, with over a quarter of our registered voters voting this way. We have 6,800 voters currently registered, which is 12% higher than a decade ago. Absentees are over 300% higher than they were a decade ago. In review, my office received approximately 1,600 absentee requests in November 2008, which equates to 3,200 state and local ballots to process. My office received approximately 900 absentee requests in November 2009, which equates to 1,800 state and local ballots to process. My office received again 900 absentee ballots this past November 2010, with over 1,800 state and local ballots to process. This year, I decided to set up an additional voting booths and opened up an absentee polling place at the town office to alleviate the lines we had experienced last year on the Monday prior to Election Day. This accommodated the larger number of voters voting absentee that day, picking up absentee ballots to take home or bringing back that day. This kept two people busy all day. There are many different scenarios for absentee ballots, but basically, my staff checks the central voter registration system in the computer to see if they are registered voters, logs the absentee ballot out under the voter's name in the computer system, prints out the voter's label to put on the absentee envelope, and then places the correct ballots into the envelope. The voter proceeds to the voting booth to vote and then puts their ballots back into the envelope. My staff makes sure that the voter has sealed and signed the envelope and then places them in alphabetical order according to voting ward and district. If they don't vote at the town office, then when voters bring back absentee ballots, my staff pulls the absentee application request, matches it up with the envelope, and enters that information into the central voter registration system's voter file, and then places the envelope in alphabetical order according to voting ward and district. Absentee envelopes throughout the 90-day process is proof daily. We keep these absentee envelopes in the vault until Election Day. I also noticed that approximately 4,000 voters have turned out for the past 3 elections. We are seeing a new trend here in Lisbon, one that I think is very good, with lots of voter participation in November annually. To me, it feels like every election is a presidential election. Prior to the council form of government, we elected our annual officers with only 300 to 600 voters and only handled the state ballot in November. It used to be that 5,000 voted in a presidential election, 3,000 in a gubernatorial election, and 1,500 in a referendum election. But today it appears that perhaps about 4,000 voters will be turning out in November every year. We couldn't do these elections without our election clerks, wardens, and deputy registrars of voters, so my hat goes off to all of them, and I thank God for each one of them. Some of our election clerks have been working for us for longer than I have been here. Their experience and dedication truly shows me just how much they care about Lisbon. On a different note, last year we collected $3,200 in hunting and fishing license fees, keeping $2,200 in town revenue. We licensed 1,099 dogs last year. This year we added an online dog registration link, so Lisbon residents can license their pets online now. It hasn't taken off as quickly as I had expected, but I anticipate that it will grow over time. Dog licenses expire December 31st yearly. After January 31st, there's a $25 late fee per dog. Our local shelter continues to be located on Upland Road, but this is a private shelter, so our animal control officer, Jeff Cooper, has to retrieve the dogs. And you can reach Mr. Cooper at the police department. We file and index vital records. The new TRIO software program contains electronic information, so we can generate certified copies from that now. We recorded 137 births, 79 deaths, and 59 marriages last year. Vital record fees unexpectedly went from $10 to $15 for the first copy and from $5 to $6 for additional copies. Marriage licenses went from $30 to $40, and burial permits went from $5 to $20. Since July 12th, we have collected and mailed $450 in new vital record fees to the state, and we have kept $675, so that's brand new revenue for us, which is very nice. And I just wanted to show you that today we received 309 petitions. I'm not sure you know what that looks like, so I thought I'd bring them to show you. Get them out of there, right? Oh, thank you, Scott. Usually they don't come in the same day. Usually they're broken up a little bit. But I thought I'd just show you that. These need to be checked with the voting list, and each name will be looked at to determine if they're valid and registered voters. We have here the act regulating establishing slot machine facilities, and the other one was an act to amend the laws governing the deadline and conditions for municipal approval of a second racino to allow a tribal racino in Washington County. So I thought I'd just show you that.
All in days.
That's all I have.
Any questions of council?
That's pretty thorough to me.
Yep. A lot of work there.
Thank you, Twyla.
I
Thank
can
you,
tell you,
Twyla.
we dealt with several town clerks throughout the campaign season, and I'm not just saying it because she's ours, but Twyla is the best to deal with. And sorry, those of you out in TV land, but she is. She is. She's very thorough.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next item, please, Tyler.
Finance Director's report.
Hello.
Good evening.
Okay. So you should all have your revenue and expense summary reports in front of you. For revenues, we're looking to be on track with our collections. Vehicle excise tax is approximately 33% collected at $802,000. Last year at this time, we had only collected $552,000. Watercraft excise is 22% collected compared to 17% last year. So things are looking pretty good with excise tax. We are 24% collected on state revenue sharing, and we'll continue to track this against what was projected. We are on track currently, but they, as you know, can change that. Recycling revenue continues to look promising. We are 44% collected at $55,000, and this is primarily due to solid waste permits. We are 89% collected on our recreation revenue. This is primarily due to increased participation in the Trekker and playground camps, as well as the fall sports programs. The library is 34% collected on their projected revenues, which is right in line with where they should be this time of year. And Beaver Park is 51% collected in its cabin, rental, and park fees. All in all, we are about 50% collected on our total tax commitment for the year, and that's taking into consideration any and all abatements that have been granted. So, unless you have further questions for me on revenue, that's what I have for you.
Any other questions?
Looking at the expense side, there are no real areas of concern at this point. We have, we've made all of our principal debt payments in October, amounting to $415,000. And come May, we'll pay the remaining $66,000 in interest. Other than that, everything else is looking to be right on track to where we should be for this time of year. So pending any questions, that's
Any
my report.
questions on expenses? Mr. Fillmore, you had a question?
Sorry. That's okay.
I just wanted to know how far, if we went over budget last year, and how much we were over last year. Did we spend too much, or where did we stand last year's budget?
We underspent last year's budget. I think I thought we returned about
300 and something.
300,000 to surplus.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions of Jessica? Okay, thank you. Excuse me. Next item, please.
Town Manager's report.
We already discussed the Dan Feeney case. Just something that came in the mail, just the public knows. I got a package from the Maine Resource Recovery Association, which deals with the solid waste. And I opened it up, and there was a plaque there recognizing Wayne Ricker as the Manager of the Year, which was funny. I hadn't heard about it. And then I looked at the date and the letter that came with it, with all the apologies, and it actually was something that he received in 2006, and he never got recognition because he happened to not be at the meeting. But I'd like to, the letter still recognizes him as one of the outstanding managers in the solid waste area, and he's got a very good reputation. He does a great job for us. So
Does do a great job.
congratulations to Wayne again. Another item that's been asked off and on since I've been here is the Lisbon-Durham Bridge and the condition of that. When you drive over that, it looks like it's falling apart, and people are a little scared they're going to go swimming in the Androscoggin River. So the DOT, I talked to some of the people there, and they got back to me, and the bridge was inspected in on September 29th, 2010, The substructure and superstructure are in satisfactory condition. The repairs, they do not plan on doing any major repairs to this, and they expect that the bridge will be replaced completely within the next 4 to 6 years, but they assure us that it is safe. So that was encouraging.
Well,
Mr. Van Tynen sent me a letter and giving me his schedule, what his plans are, which he had discussed earlier at the last meeting. Again, he's on target for coming before the council on your meeting in December 7th to just go through the tax commitment and where he is, and he should be prepared to commit taxes at that time. He's also, I've asked him to put together a proposal for after that. In his letter to me, he outlined some things that he recommends that we continue to do, and he's putting together a proposal for me, what it would cost to have him stay on in a retaining position, and on different types of scenarios. So hopefully by that time, on December 7th, we can talk more about that. But we do have funding in our assessing budget to cover those costs through the wage lines, and we have plenty of money to move forward with anything we need to do. And that's all I have.
okay. Next item, please.
Draft municipal budget schedule, 2011, 2012.
You have an opportunity to look at the proposed draft on the upcoming municipal budget process. One of the recommendations that have been made this year by our finance director, and to fine-tune and maybe move the process along a bit smoother, is to take out the part where department heads come and make their presentation. It's been generally done after I give my your first look at the budget. Instead of doing that, we will just, when we get to their part of the budget, they will have to be in attendance so you have the opportunity to ask them questions. But department heads and I will sit down and we'll thrash out what they think their needs are and what, based on their recommendations, my thoughts, and then come January, the first meeting in January, the council will give us direction on what they would like to see us do in the budget process and make their recommendations. And then the department heads and I will go back to the drawing board, and if we haven't already accomplished what you're looking for, to refine and do it some more. So this is in line with what the school budget is. I've got a meeting with Rick Green on Monday to go through this with him again and make sure that we're all in sync, and just get some recommendations from him. But on the December 7th meeting, if you have the opportunity, we can approve this schedule and move forward with it and get it prepared for the budget process. Any questions?
Questions? Comments? No? I just have one comment. The one thing I might suggest is that we try, just kind of based on lessons learned, somehow weave into our schedule how we can determine the best way to identify a tax commitment prior to the end of our final budget vote. So that, because, I think things have to go out in April, and things have to be replied back to in May and stuff like that, so.
We're going to have to be very aggressive to get the business community to get things back to us within a 30-day period if they can. That would give us enough time to do that.
We should explain to them, too, that it might help, better define what the final tax number will be for them as well, so. Since we've learned a harsh lesson.
Hopefully Bill will be on retainer for us to help us through that process.
But just some food for thought anyway as to how we could best do that. Anything else from council? Okay. Next item.
Audience participation. At this time, those in the audience who wish to address the council may come forward. Please use the microphone at the podium. Please state your name for the record and the audience at home.
Mr. Fillmore?
Okay, my name's Larry Fillmore. I'm from Lisbon, thank you. The first thing I had was, we got sidetracked on my recommendation for an audit. I didn't see a vote on by the council. Are we going to take any action on that tonight, or are we just going to let that go by the side?
The federal, if, I'm not sure what you're looking for an audit. Our audit is done every year by our auditing firm. Next meeting, there will be a presentation to the council for the annual audit. And anything else that is managed within the Economic Development Department, if it's federal funds, they come in every year and do their own audit. So I'm not sure why we'd want to commit any dollars to come in and do another audit. We can certainly sit down, if anybody has concerns, with the audit committee or Jessica and myself and go through the audit, which identifies the funding that is used in that department and answer any questions.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to give the new director our support here, because there are a number of rumors out there that it was inappropriate funds were used for different things, and it's all rumor control and all allegations. I'm trying to eliminate him getting stuck with all of this and let him do his job like we want him to do. Now, I'm just saying that an internal audit may not find, right, as much as an external, third-party audit who is, you know, is directed into his area of expertise. Because I would like to just eliminate all these, because we're 3 years now playing with all this around. I don't like that. I think we have better business to attend to. We have more problems in the town that we need our attention now, not keep fighting battles for 3 and 4 years and all the rumors. I got a solution for your rumors, and I'll get to that. Okay, but I didn't hear a vote or anything on an audit.
Well, I mean, the audit that we have done is an external audit, and I know the audit committee this year did ask to have some specific attention looked at the, all the revolving loan funds and everything which are managed and controlled out of the economic development budget.
Okay. All right, see if you're gonna bet that by. Okay. The next item that I have is, at the last meeting, we had a lot of residents concerned about the tax issue and their mortgage companies. And at that time, I thought we were going to send out a letter. I came in today and checked to see what was going on. I found a 4-line letter sent by the town manager. The meeting we had was on the 3rd. The letter is dated the 9th. And you know where those letters are? They was sitting at 2:30 this afternoon in the town collection office down there. So that's 2 weeks. We can't act on a 4-line letter in 2 weeks? I find that outrageous. We're looking for relief out here, and if we can't get a little, more priority for our residents to help them out, I don't know what good we're doing here. I really don't. 2 weeks to send out a 4-line letter? You gotta be kidding me, okay? And I know we're all busy, but that should have been a priority. The same way as I thought we were gonna have taxation on this agenda until the issue has been resolved. If we don't have anything, we say, we don't have anything new to bring up, but we keep it on the agenda until the issues are resolved. Okay? We don't have that, and it's not on the agenda. I find that just outrageous that we just drop it off and leave it hanging. That's how come we get into so much trouble. The next item, the website. I love the website. Okay? I sent a letter to each member of the council. When I did, 2 of the addresses that were on the council came back undeliverable. One of them was my fault. Okay? I left off, I didn't spell it right. Okay? I have to take the blame for that one. But the other one never went anywhere. Okay? And we're asking the town residents to communicate with us, and you can't communicate very well if it's not working. I know we don't have an IT guy, but we've got to do a better job. 2 of the council members did not have phone numbers on there. Okay? One of the council members I talked to said hers doesn't work. Okay? That's totally unacceptable. You want us to communicate, you want us to work with you, you want our comments and everything. We got to have a means to communicate with you. If you can't use your website, not very effective. Okay, we need to correct that. If we're going to ask for the input from the residents of this town, you have to give them a vehicle in which to communicate with you. You're not doing that. That's wrong. Okay? The next thing is all of these issues that we have in the town that are really old. Okay? I have a recommendation for you. And I know some of it will have to be written by a lawyer to keep the town from being liable for anything they say in there. But I think that if you published information sheets, put it on the website, and put them out here for meetings, that we can hopefully get information out to the residents so that they can be familiar with what's going on and be up to date on some of these items and stop some of the rumors that we've got floating around here. Information sheets on the website. Now, I know we're going to get some opposition about the website because not everybody has a computer. Not everybody knows how to use a computer. But then again, we have a library that has computers that residents who do not know how to utilize a computer can go to. Another great idea is put out a newsletter. Costly, I understand that. But if you put out a newsletter once, okay, in there you outline the proper procedures for getting into the website, for utilizing the website. You already got it on place, so you don't have, it doesn't cost that much more. You're not going to get any increase in cost, but you would have a great value. People put in the library in the newsletter that anybody who doesn't have a computer can go to the libraries. They will have a standard operating procedure how to get into it and have people available to help them get online so that they can keep up with what's going on in this town. These little things are not going to cost the town very much money. May be time until we get up to speed on it. Yes, I grant you that. But the benefits of it certainly outweigh what minor cost we're going to have on it. We have asked everybody to communicate and give you people the input that you need, how we feel, what's going on. That's a two-way street. We can eliminate about 90% of the rumors by posting information onto the website. The last news item that's out there is dated in May of this year. I'm quite sure that we've had some news out there since then. At least the Moxie Day would have been a news item. There have been other items. We have the vehicle in which to communicate with the residents, for them to communicate with you, and you to communicate with us. The problem is we're not using what we have to our advantage. And I think we need to take a serious look at utilizing the website, using information sheets. You could also have a question and answer on the website where people send in questions when they hear a rumor or whatever, they want to know an answer. You could have questions written in. They pass it out to the department heads, and the department heads answer it. You have a vehicle already in place. You got to utilize it. We're getting too many rumors, too much bad mouthing, and everything else. We got to eliminate that. We got people turned against each other and everything else in the town because of misinformation, okay, or lack of information. They could be easily resolved without a great deal of money being expended. Thank you.
There is a quarterly newsletter on the website that has been going for the last 2 years. I'd have to look at the website to see when the last time our past economic development director was managing that, and I'd have to see when the last one was put up, because I don't think we've had one for the last quarter, but we have been putting out a quarterly newsletter online.
But the problem with that is that until you get to the old people that don't have computers or don't know how to use computers, okay, you're not going to get the information to them. That's why I say if you mailed, and I know it costs money, I got that, all right, out to every resident of the town explaining how to get on the website, how to utilize it, and for those that don't know how to utilize a computer, to go to the library and they would help them out, okay? That's the only way you're going to get everybody, because anybody who doesn't have a computer, doesn't do them any good if you post it out there, because they don't have a computer to talk to them, okay? So that's my point on that. Thank you.
I think possibly we could include something in the tax bills when we send out. We can include a newsletter or some direction at least to use the library and use the website that way.
One of the things that we are doing, department heads, we had a meeting last week, and we are revamping the monthly department reports. We're going to do it on a different format. We're going to put it online, and every month there'll be news from each department. Some of the department heads have not been real consistent with doing that, but that's going to change. So look for that as well.
Mr. Fellows?
I'm Don Fellows from the Lisbon side of town. I got up here for one reason, but Mr. Fillmore made a comment, and several comments actually, and I remember hearing and seeing a newsletter in Durham this summer when I work over at the KOA. It comes monthly. Isn't very long. It's about 15th class mail. And I don't know what it costs the town of Durham, but it gets a lot of people's attention. And I think that whether that's useful in a 6-month term until everybody gets used to the website, we could certainly measure that one way or another, as he mentions. But it might be useful to do that just to keep people going. And you could tell by attendance whether it's actually working or not. I think that I've read the economic development letter and all the goings-on the website, but to be honest with you, it just goes on and on and on and on when it does come out, and it's difficult to read on the computer. And as much as I use the computer, I like to read things in writing sometimes, so it might be a useful idea. The real reason I got up here, or the other reason I got up here, was currently, as you know, I'm chairman of the Budget Advisory Committee. It will have a totally, well, not totally, but a new makeup next year with at least 2 new members and 1 re-elected one. I spoke with the town manager today, but I wanted to make sure that those new members, that our new members for the Budget Advisory Board, get the same kind of introduction into the town as we had last year. I'd also like to continue to take, us to take steps to continue to be inclusive for the board members, as you did in the past years, and to learn from our lessons on that one. And I particularly like the 7 o'clock times in here. I can't stand 6:30, but 7 o'clock works really nice. So don't change it.
Scheduled to say something.
Any other participation?
I guess I just need to ask again, Michelle Trammell, Lisbon Falls. I just need to ask again, at least one counselor's brought it up. I've asked before, you were gonna look into it, and that was the reason that the meeting time was changed, since the charter does state 7 o'clock. I'm just curious where we are with that. I never got an answer. You were gonna check with the attorney. That was 3 meetings ago.
The actual, I don't have my charter with me tonight. The actual charter was amended,
Several years ago.
not the last time we did charter amendments, and it just was revised to say that the town council shall meet. I think it's in section 2.
The current one online doesn't say that.
I'm not sure we have the, what's that, Twyla?
It should. That amendment's already been updated and on the online.
I know we had that. I had that on,
I'm just curious why it wasn't brought back up again.
where was it? I had that all on.
It's section 206.
206,
Yep.
right? Right, proceedings of the council. It says, meetings. The council shall meet regularly at least once each month at such time and places as the council may prescribe. Special meetings may be held on the call of the chair or of 4 or more members of the council by causing notification to be given in hand or left at the usual dwelling place of each councilor.
Have you checked the other there's another section that speaks actually definitively to the time and the meeting place and the first and third Tuesdays of the month.
It's the working rules document,
Yeah, there's another section.
probably.
I don't see that section.
Because there were two parts of the charter that actually spoke to the meetings. And you have to look for, there was two separate areas you actually had to look for them, and the one was very, very clear about the time, the place, the occurrence.
I don't see anything else. We looked at that.
The attorney did look at it. We did talk to him about it. And he's the one that said it, we had the wrong one up on the line.
Yeah, because I mean, I had asked about it. I was told you'd get back to us. It's been at several meetings, and I've heard a couple of counselors comment about the time frame, so I'm just curious why it wasn't put back out there so we would know.
I don't see another section, at least in that.
The one
under
that's online, I
council
will actually go
proceedings.
home and I will copy the section that's out there that's very clear, that's not amended on the current charter online. And I can send it to all of you so you
Well,
can see where
Riley, you
we're
can
pulling
check
it
that,
from.
would you, please?
Glad to.
We'll check that one that's online. If we have to, I mean, if we have the wrong charter online, then that's something we gotta fix.
We want our money back. So we pay for that. We pay for that to be right.
There's also another area that you had assured me it would come up for discussion. We're now, this is the fourth meeting since I asked about that. And that was about discussions. It came out many times during that Friday and the following Tuesday town council meetings in regards to the taxes. It was brought forth by many citizens that they wanted input in regards to their municipal budget. I asked about it. You assured me it would be discussed and put onto the agenda, and this is the fourth meeting since that was brought up.
I'm not following.
Having the citizens vote on the municipal budget. It's not anything new.
That
You've heard
was-
me ask about it for a year.
That was done after, I gotta get this right now. Not this past budget season, but the budget season before, I believe. That was done in a workshop to discuss additional referendums to, or amendments to the charter. There was a bunch of amendments that were discussed with the town attorney. We sat in a workshop. That was one of the items that was discussed. And at that point in time, there was the majority of the council brought forward no additional amendments. That was handled at a workshop.
No, I asked 4 meetings ago. At the time, there was a lot of sensitivity brought forth in the town.
I understand what you're saying, Michelle.
Okay.
I'm saying that the council had already addressed that request previously by
Previously.
bringing it up.
Right.
And we have not taken it up again. Nobody in the council has asked me during that time period since the last one to bring anything back up again as a adjustment for additional referendum changes.
I didn't ask you to change it. What I asked at that meeting was to have discussion about it since the public verbally vocalized to you their issue in wanting to have that. I asked about having a public hearing, some form of discussion about it. You assured me it would happen. So if it had been discussed a year ago prior to this, why would you have told me? And I mean, I can bring it back on tape if I have to, but you actually stated to me that we would look in the future at having a future discussion about it because it was brought forth by so many people at that point. I think people deserve to have a response to their questions. You guys say you want us to come. A lot of people came, they spoke about it. There was no resolution. So what we were asking was, to at least have an open discussion about it. You had told me we would, but it hasn't come up again. I'm not asking for the council. I think the people have a right to have a discussion about it. And if a lot of people, that's what they want to do, I mean, isn't it fair to hear them and you to take their consideration under advisement to look at maybe revisiting it again? Because that's what I was asking, as so many other people have. Was for the public to give input. Not for you guys per se, but to at least put it out there so the public knows they can come and attend and discuss it.
Okay. I guess I missed that. I apologize.
Yeah, I'm just looking for the public to have an avenue to come and have some further discussion about it.
If that's something council wants to do, then
You know, it might make sense even just to hold a special meeting just focused on that, so we're not, fighting into our regular business, even like, some week when we don't have a meeting, have a Tuesday there, we can just have a public hearing, and if people want to show up and talk about it, they can.
And that's actually, I mean, I had asked about it, but
Can I speak?
okay.
I don't remember exactly when it was, but I know that this issue was asked about or spoke of in front of the town attorney, who had said to us that night that in order to change the way that the voting was on the municipal budget, that we would have to make some charter changes.
yeah.
And I think that, I don't remember exactly what we said when we were going to revisit that idea, but that we were trying to get through
Yep.
some of the other things. And so if we do move forward with bringing that topic up again, I would recommend that we have Roger here with us to tell us where those changes would need to be made. So I'm assuming that he will have to look at the specific sections, and if he could advise us of that so that we can have meaningful discussion, and then folks can ask the questions that they have, put their suggestions out there so that we can start formulating the language, because there will need to be charter changes, from my understanding of it.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
One of the things that Roger has mentioned, that during the December 21st orientation, part of that meeting is going to be a workshop for the counselors and anybody who would like to sit and attend. It's a public meeting. He had planned to bring back up to the council the question of charter changes. So if that's something the new council wants to move forward on, there was quite a list of stuff that still hadn't been addressed, and we didn't get back to it because we were in the middle of the budget process. But he did say, we've been talking about the orientation process, and that's going to come up in discussion
right.
at that time.
I guess where my issue is I've been asking about it for a year. Last spring I brought it up. You guys, at one point, the discussion was you were going to wait and see how the voters came out and what their vote was in regards to continuing to vote every year on the school budget. And then the meeting before that was to occur, it was, you guys said, you know what, as citizens, you have the right to go out and change the charter. Go take a petition out if you want to have it changed. So what I asked for 4 meetings ago was not to have have an amendment done, nothing to that sort, but to have you guys have an open discussion to hear what the public is asking for, what they would like, so that you would know what direction to go. If you didn't think there was going to be enough people to come out and vote on it for the school budget, which, I mean, they did, but if you didn't think there was going to be enough public input to make it a valid vote, having a public discussion would give you that input. That's what I was asking for, is have a public discussion, not to move forward with an amendment change, nothing like that. I obviously would love to see that, but I think you need to hear from the public. That hasn't happened, other than some heated comments during a time that was a very sensitive subject that was coming out. And I think now that some things have calmed down, it's obviously not resolved, I still think it would be fair to have the public come out and have an open dialogue and discussion about what they would like, even suggestions, things like that, because if you're going to force the hand of the public, they ought to know what they're going to need to do. I'm just saying an open dialogue, open discussion, town councilors and the public, that's it. I'm not asking for a formal amendment to the charter at this point. So, I mean, I thought it was pretty fair in asking just to have you guys have some open dialogue with the public about it, rather than during a heated meeting as it had come up back in September.
Okay. Any other audience participation? Dot?
Dot Fitzgerald again. I was very, very pleased to see the turnout last night at the meeting concerning the Route 196 corridor, the Maine Department of Transportation meeting. The place here was full. There was, I was gonna say standing room only, but some people were standing even. And don't be fooled, town council, town manager, and residents of the town of Lisbon. The state is going to do exactly what they want to do. They own Route 196. Who owns Route 196 through the town of Lisbon?
It's a state road.
The state. Now, and the state is the one that would be responsible for any repairs other than routine maintenance and
That's correct.
plowing?
Right.
Okay. There was a traffic count done. We have some businesses, fairly new businesses, Rite Aid, Aubuchon built a new building. I have a feeling that, and the Food City, most of these businesses, I'm sure, did a traffic count before they decided to locate here and to make improvements. So traffic count is crucial to their business. At the previous town council meeting, there was a gentleman here that said that he's interested in purchasing the Warumbo Mill property. And he asked about the population of Lisbon Falls and also a traffic count. So if we want to sell the Warumbo Mill property to something that is going to be beneficial for the town tax-wise, bringing business and employment, a traffic count is going to be important to that too. So we need to really, really be proactive. We need to keep in mind that we have to protect the businesses and the residents of the town of Lisbon. Look at, Wiscasset. Years and years and years, they fought the state for about a bypass, and the state finally won. But we probably don't have the money that Wiscasset does to fight the state on something like that. But their proposals, the 3-lane and the 5-lane highway, and a bypass, they could use Plan Number 1, 3 lanes plus the bypass, or the Plan 2, 5 lanes plus the bypass. It doesn't have to be either or. So the town really needs to be proactive. I'd like to see the town council, the town manager, and all of the residents of the town of Lisbon be proactive to protect us, protect our town, our residents, and our businesses. Can you promise me that?
Every day.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any other audience participation? Okay, next item, please, Twyla.
We have no appointments. Next item is council communications.
Council or communications? Do we have any communications from council?
But somebody else can go first.
No?
Okay, I'll go. Sorry to be a pain, Steve, but we talked about that map, remember, for the street lights, and I don't know if we've seen that map yet of the which lights are going to be removed. We've seen any progress on that?
We are still waiting, one, for the land use ordinance zoning map to be approved. It's going before the planning board this month, so that's one of the reasons. We have been out and we've identified 89 lights to be removed on some of the back roads. We have not targeted Upland Road. We're going to wait because they're going to be removing poles and putting up new poles. And we have told the engineer that's on that project that we'd like to keep it just at the intersection, so we're moving forward with that.
Okay, you're going to flag those lights? You're going to remove lights on, like just, put up a ribbon or something so he'll know?
Yeah, they've
that's
been
a warning?
marked.
Okay,
You'll see an orange mark on them. And we have the list. Ryan has the list in his office.
Okay.
Roger?
I got 2 or 3 things I'd like to discuss. Number one, could we have put on the agenda for our next meeting, we're gonna have the new council together at that time, to discuss the 7 o'clock meeting. The 6:30 isn't working well for me at all, and I've talked to other councils, it's not working for them either.
That's fine.
Could we
Yeah.
have that on the next agenda to
Yeah.
set that in stone?
Yep.
Also, we received, as council, letters from Mr. Fillmore this week. I'd like to have it put on an agenda to go into executive session or whatever we have to do to discuss that and have council here to answer questions for us.
Okay,
Can we have that done?
Yep.
And, I think there was one other issue I wanted to bring up.
I'm not sure if it'll be the next meeting, though,
No, I understand that, but,
because we got a lot going on in the next meeting.
we have to have it
Yep.
done in a timely fashion.
Yep.
As far as the, next budget season that we're gonna be coming, which will soon be here, we did the budget a lot different in the last couple of years than we did in prior years. We were more itemized, we were more, it was more involved so that we could see where our monies was spent. Is there a way that we could get back to, so we have a real budget that we can look at rather than what we've had the last couple of years? This last couple of years, if you look at our budget, it's very simplified, it's very, it's not a detailed budget that we know where our finances are going. We've had citizens talking about it, we've had a lot of issues brought up about it. Why is it the way that it is? Why can't it be, what are we hiding? Why can't we have it so that people can understand it?
I mean, we're not hiding anything. I'm not sure how the rest of the council feels, but I thought we had a very detailed line item budget that explained each, a bunch of sublines with any given one category.
The first year I was on the council, we had a very open budget. It was very explicit where our monies were going. It was very easy to follow. And now we've got a budget where it's basically simplified to the point where we have to take a lot of things for granted. I'd like to, why our budgets are being done that way.
Can you, I mean, I guess one of my suggestions would be is if you did like a little mock-up of
No,
the
absolutely.
old one to our new one and try and
I can do that. I've
see
got
if
all that
I mean,
documentation
if some of
going
it may
out.
be some limitations into the software that we're using, because I do know our old budget wasn't really done in the software. It was done kind of on an Excel spreadsheet,
Exactly.
right, which isn't necessarily good, right, because there's a lot of more opportunity for mistakes there, and then translating data back into the system again, so.
But it did give us an opportunity to see where our funding was going. Whether it is now, it isn't.
If you could give us some examples of what you're looking for, Jessica is making some changes under each line item to give more specific data or categories, so it might be something that we're working on, but
Okay.
if you could give her or myself an idea of what you're looking for. Mike has
I'll
sat
pull
down with
the
me.
first budget that I worked
Be
with,
fine.
and I'll show
What
you
we
what I'm
can,
looking for.
the limitations.
Roger, just for clarification, the budget you're referring to, is that the ones that we had the green bar reports that had the
Yes.
GL coding on it?
Yeah.
So that would be helpful. I'm not sure that you can do green bar reports anymore with a new.
But
Um,
do
com-
you agree with
but
me, Ms.
yes,
Pumlo? It was a
yes.
lot easier to follow.
Oh, I didn't think so
You
at
didn't
all.
think so? You
You
were able to
you
at
were
least.
flipping through pages and flipping back, and
Right, but
I
you
thought
could
it
at
was
least
horrible,
look at the
but-
GL coding to see what was included in each one of those lines, so it did provide
Exactly.
some additional answers as to what was being posted to each one of the line items that we were being asked to vote on. Yes, it is a lot of work.
Yeah, sure is.
I just thought it was an easier budget to follow than the way that we're doing it.
Well, having said that, would you mind if we just ask Mr., I'm drawing a blank, why did I just, Mr. Fellows, if he has any opinion from the advisory board as to what they might like to work with?
Well, actually, the budget that I saw, I didn't know what he was talking about.
Oh,
First time I saw it was like
last year's, okay.
the last 2 years. If there's more detail, great. If it requires a book and a half for everybody, that's gonna be beyond the.
It wasn't that difficult. It was just more thorough. It was more,
It's labor intensive.
Yes, it is.
broke down more so you could see where the funding was going.
Any information we can get would be helpful, that's all I.
That's the way I look at it. Because I think we're gonna have a banger of a year coming up.
Well, and
And I think that the more information we can have, it's gonna make our job a lot easier.
I think maybe one, I'm not sure if it's if we can do this, I don't know if we still have all the data. But if we could take a report from the old system and compare it to what's in the new system and kind of walk through it and explain it, it might help everybody understand more that really the same data's there. It's just maybe slightly represented differently or whatever. It may be just a little kind of workshop to go through and kind of look at that based on what you bring forward and everything, and to kind of look at the two together and match them.
I think Lori brought up exactly what I'm looking for is with the green bar. It would just made it a lot simpler for her to find things, to find out where the spending was.
An alternative to that that may not be as overwhelming is if we use the budget that we worked from and there's any areas that we're specifically wanting to know more detail of. I mean, there's some of it that's pretty self-explanatory. There isn't much we can do about it, county tax, for example. But if there are some other lines within each one of the departments that you want to know more about, I'm sure that one of the registers, the GL posting ledgers, could be printed off, and then that gives you a breakdown of what's been posted to that account. That might be as beneficial and not as overwhelming.
Well, the big thing is in the future budget, we're gonna be looking at like $130,000 shortfall from the state, possibly more. We're gonna have to make that up.
Mhm.
And when we can look at individual item and find out where we could cut within a budget. Because right now, we're going by what the manager of the department feels that they need. But maybe if the council looked at their budget in detail, we would feel that maybe that expenditure wouldn't have to be used. Because we're gonna be here making some tough decisions. And I just feel that the more information that we have, the easier it's gonna be for the council to make these decisions.
So, would it be possible to get a green bar from the old budget and then print out all the various reports that are available from the current TRIO system so that we can look and see if something's there?
Well, what I can certainly try. I have not seen the green bar to know what's being referenced, but I can try. What I can tell you now is what I have been doing, and that's been taking a big chunk of my time, has been to go through, and I had discussions with Steve on this, is to go through each department, because I didn't like the way the budget process went last year. I felt like there was a lot of back and forth of reiterating what had already been said was in the budget, and then the questions would keep coming back. So what I have been trying to go through and do is under each line item on the sheets that you currently have is to say if it's professional development, exactly what that is. If it's the MMA designation at $75 or the GFOA at $150, so that you know the 5 pieces that make up the budget of professional development for me. So I've been trying to do that, and it will be brought to the department heads because I've been trying to work off of historical information of what I do see in the system before I really inundate the department heads and say, I need all this information. So I'm trying to pull as much as I can myself ahead of time based on what's already in the system to make it easier for everybody to do it going forward. So I think that to me sounds kind of what you're asking for, but not having seen the green bar, I can't say for 100% certainty that it would be one for one.
Well,
But
the whole thing behind my questioning this is that moving forward, we're gonna be looking at making cuts. And they're gonna be some pretty deep cuts into certain areas. And I would just like to have to know what we're cutting.
My hopes and what I'm going to hopefully provide you is that under each line item, obviously, as Lori alluded to, there are some things that there's not a lot of discussion to go into, like the county tax. So I'm not spending a lot of time on lines like that. But as far as the individual departments, I'm trying to go in and give you exactly what is making up that budget in black and white on your papers so that it's not flipping back and forth and saying, okay, well, what's included here, doing the comparison. It will all be written there on the trio list for you in a little bit more details to hopefully help alleviate some of the questions.
Well, the thing of it is that if you're gonna be sitting down voting on a budget, and you're gonna be looking at numbers, and you have to ask what entails, we should have what entails in front of us to
Exactly.
make that decision.
And that's exactly what I'm pulling for you.
That's where I'm going with it.
And that's what I'm trying to put in for you.
Could I just?
Thank you.
Yep.
Just for the council and the council new person coming in January, we historically, after we've given the capital improvement budget, we come back to the first meeting in January and ask for direction from the council on where you would like us, your recommendations for the budget. And that includes, you know, if you're willing, if you want to make recommendations to close the town office 2 days a week, or cut other department manpowers, or things like that. That's the kind of direction we're looking for, is how drastically do you want us to cut it? Do you want us to work on lowering the tax rate, or keeping the tax rate flat, or, but like still accomplishing some of the things that you have in mind, like the reval or things like that? So prior to, you have over a month to think about these things. If you could come back in January at our first meeting and give us, you know, direction. That's what we're looking for this year, because you're right, Roger. It's going to be a very difficult year. Staff has already been told that we are going to be looking at losing positions. And there's just no money coming from the state that we expect, and this new governor-elect is going to find a nice big pot of money somewhere, which I doubt. So we need direction. What, you know, how deep do you want us to cut? And what are your ultimate goals? What are the programs that you think you need to save or need to provide for essential services?
And another thing that we did in the last couple sessions, couple budget seasons, we would have a spreadsheet and we knew what our dollar figure was. I think we gotta start that right off at the beginning to know what kind of monies we're looking for, what kind of areas that we have, you know, what direction we have to go in. In the last year, couple years, we haven't got into that until it's crunch time. I like to see us start a little sooner to know what our overall budget's gonna look like when we have our department heads coming forth with a budget. We're gonna have an idea what our starting point's gonna be and where we need to go, so that we have some idea what to work with, and not wait till crunch time before we get to that point. Do I make any
Well,
sense at all?
I think, let me just make sure I understand what you're asking for. If I can tell, basically what you can do is look at what you have for a budget this year. This is the dollar amounts that we are spending to provide the level of service that we have. We've gone through, all our retirees are now, we don't have retirees that I know of that we can draw on anymore to fill, not, you know, to lose positions to save money. So they're all gone. What we're looking at this year, and I've told department heads that, is we're looking at either cutting back on hours in different departments. Transfer station may be closed a couple days a week. This office may be closed a day a week. Things like that. We're looking at some areas that we might farm out that we can do it cheaper than doing it in-house. I mean, these are things that we're going to be discussing through the month of December, but come January, I will provide to you what we think, Jessica and I think, if the state can provide us with revenue sharing numbers, and not change it halfway through the year like they've done to us, we can give you a better idea on our end what we're looking at, and when the assessing office gets in line, which it will be, we'll have a better idea what our evaluation is. We know coming into this coming year, we're gonna lose, right off the top, $1.5 million in value from depreciation. That's quite a bit. So we're gonna have to make that up somewhere. If the revenue sharing stays where it is, or even decreases, then we're gonna have to make that up somewhere. We just got notified last week on our healthcare increase. It's 9.8%. We're shopping that out I should have numbers by the end of the week from another company that we've been dealing with off and on for the last 2 years. So these are things that we're working on. By January, when you go to make your recommendations, I'm hoping I can have what you're looking for, a better idea of where we're gonna be, but it's still early. By March, the first meeting in March, I should have some fairly good numbers by then. So I think that's what you're looking for.
Roger, can I ask you a question?
That's up to the chairman, but I am all open for it.
This isn't for Roger. This is generally what I think about the budget process and having watched it over closely from the last couple of years. And that is that we've gone back to the town manager a couple of times and said, okay, come in with a budget that meets X dollars. But we haven't really known what revenue is, nor have we known what the sense of the public is what they will tolerate. And I think it's the town council now, one way or another, needs to find out what the public will tolerate. And if we can get a good sense of that, if it's flat taxes, if it's lower taxes, if it's 1 mil, if it's half a mil, whatever it is, get a good sense of that, throw the revenues expected conservatively against it, and then we know where we got to go. Then we got to worry about what's going to happen in the school budget, because we don't have a very good handle on that one. So,
And Mr. Green and I are having more conversation this year than we've had in the past year. So we have on Monday, it's going to be a serious heart-to-heart about expenses, so.
Okay. Any other council communications?
I have something to add to that. I think one thing that we as councilors have to be responsible about is when we feel that there needs to be cuts in a department, we need to have solutions for those cuts. To come here and say that we want to cut X department, this many people, or this amount of money, that's great and sounds wonderful on paper, but to impact service in that way and not have a solution, that's also difficult on the other end of the spectrum. So that's something I think we need to be careful with. Cuts are going to happen, absolutely, but you need to think what the effects are going to be when that's all said and done. So, but the other thing I'd like to say, I have two things to add, and hopefully a little more positive note. But last Friday there was a mural unveiling downtown on the Down East Energy building. The painting that's behind you, it's Main Street in the 30s, was taken, and a mural artist who happens to be our art teacher at the high school divided it into large segments. The community helped to paint that mural, and actually there was a video that was made by Ryan from the credit union, the progression of that mural, and he sent it to me today. I don't know if it's going on the website. Did you see that today?
I think it's going on the website. I haven't seen it yet, no.
I think it's going onto the website. It was a really good, short, 5-minute little video that showed what happened and how this mural came to be. And anyways, last Friday afternoon, it was placed on the side of the Down East Energy building, and it looks very nice up there. Mr. Gross, the gentleman who actually painted the original painting, was there, and I guess I was not able to make it that day, but about 50 citizens showed up, and that's something like we'd like to continue doing. So if you get a chance, drive by. It's up on the top of the Down East Energy building when you're going towards Anicetti's. It's on the left on that building. And then also, Very Merry Main Street is coming up. That's an event that the Revitalization Committee started last year, and it was a very successful event. We had a lot of people come to us and say they just love to see downtown Lisbon Falls come alive. It was like they remembered from years and years ago, and we've decided to do that again. It's on the 4th of December. It's an evening. It goes along with the Christmas tree lighting, the arrival of Santa, and then we all head downtown. The businesses generally are open that evening. We have carolers. We have a lot of different things happening that night. So mark it on your calendars. Last year it went well. It snowed on cue. It was a great
did. That was
time.
perfect.
Bono's Sausage Kitchen was open. The fire department had Santa. So those are the things we'll continue to do this year. And that's it.
All set?
I don't have the information about the Thanksgiving dinner. And I apologize for not bringing that. Do you know the details of the Thanksgiving dinner?
Judy Goddard and Kathleen Bailey are doing that. They've been working on it for the last couple of weeks, I guess. They are trying to engage these high school students. They've made some phone calls over there.
How about Lisbon community? The Lisbon community school, elementary
Yep.
school students?
Yep, everybody.
Okay.
We reminded Kathleen of that again today to make sure that they got these people involved, because they don't want to participate, so. And also, they're doing trying to get the students involved in the Christmas giving tree as well, so. Judy Goddard and Kathleen are the ones that were heading that up. Kathleen Bailey.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Next item.
Order 2010-189 to adjourn.
I'll make that motion that we adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn from Counselor Mason.
I'll second that.
I have a second from Counselor Lunt. All those in favor?
Order passed 5-0.
Thank
Thank
you
you
all.
very much.
No, it was the whole packet.
We have some stuff to sign.